What's up, guys? I'm going back to Record Roots. Today we're going to be acting to a real life execution of Emily Rose. Is way scared the movie. I know a little about Emily Rose. I know she was diagnosed with epilepsy. Epilepsy. I think it is a terminal lobe disorder. It has something to do with like causing like fractures or something in the brain or messing up parts of your brain. And I know that I think she was born in 1953. She was diagnosed with it in 1973, I think. And pretty much, eventually she had been taken to the hospital for it. Eventually got so bad she was having seizures. She wasn't able to control her own body. Was started seeing demons and stuff. And eventually her parents, who at first I took her to the hospital, kept getting treated, and they kept giving her more and more different pills, which weren't helping. But as it got worse, they were becoming convinced that she was possessed by some type of demon or whatever, and that she needed to be exorcised, which unfortunately ended up killing her. So, and I know there's a movie. I've never actually seen the movie, but I know it's like loosely based on her. Like, not all the facts are there in the movie. So, this is what we're reacting to today. I hope you guys enjoy. If you guys do, make sure you give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share. There will link on screen to reveal, as well as a link below to original channel. Please do so. Go with history. This is mine. I'm just reacting to it. Make sure to check out my social media down below in the description as well, and make sure your thoughts down below in the comment section. What you guys think of the reaction? But let's get into it.
The 70s were a big decade for Lucifer. The Exorcist came out in late 73. Anton LaVey was really feeling himself with the growing popularity of his Church of Satan, and his book, The Satanic Bible, was really hitting its stride. This enigmatic mixture of satanic hysteria was a perfect storm that set up one of the most horrific cases of child abuse by way of religious ceremony and tradition. In this video, we'll uncover the violent truths that still shroud Anneliese Michel's death and the 67 exorcisms she endured, which inspired the Exorcism of Emily Rose. But before we get started, now's a great time to subscribe to Weird History. Leave us a comment and let us know what strange phenomenon or person you'd like us to cover next. Now let's go back to the mid-70s, when casting demons out of people was as popular as disco. Anneliese Michel was born on September 21, 1952, to a fairly normal Bavarian family in West Germany. The Michels were heavily into Catholicism, but that wasn't all that surprising considering 70% of the almost 11 million residents were Catholic at the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Still, Anneliese's family was more religious than most. Her parents forced her and her three sisters to go to Catholic Mass twice a week.
Oh, God.
Her mother in particular pushed her to pray and devote as much extra time as possible towards religious devotion. According to the doctors Anneliese met with later, she developed neurosis related to religious iconography as a result of punishments inflicted upon her as a young girl. Remember this diagnosis, as it'll come into play later. Still,
that makes sense too, because people who really take their religion seriously are often children of them are often punished because they don't do something that's like that completely follows religion word by word, or like beating, like this is what this is what you're supposed to do, this is what you're not supposed to do. I kind of grew up with somebody, a family member like that was a very well, let's say close friend, rather family member, but that was very religion based, especially the Catholics. She had a very strong belief, and she believed the word to a T, and like if there were certain things in our house that we did, like we couldn't make fun of God or anything like that without getting our asses beat.
Still, as religiously oppressive as the Michel house was, Anneliese's friends said she was initially a great student, showed strength in language study, and was happy and playful. The constant helicopter parenting and strict religious upbringing she had to endure would come back to haunt the family, almost literally several years later. Whether it was possession or mental illness, Anneliese's condition began rather gradually over a period of years. While at school one day in 1968, a then 16-year-old Anneliese unexpectedly blacked out for a few minutes. During this first documented blackout, her classmates said she fell into a trance-like state. Anneliese says she didn't remember the event and claimed she was fine after the ordeal, but the same night she woke up feeling like there was a presence pressing heavily down on her body, and then went to bed. Anneliese's parents kept her home the following day, and it seemed like it was a one-off occurrence. Annalisa said she felt fine, and she was until August of
She looked
1968.
pretty
Less
good.
than a year later, Annalisa experienced a similar episode and was taken to a local hospital to determine what had happened. Her doctor, Dr. Vogt, referred her to a neurologist, Dr. Siegfried Luthi. After an examination and a series of tests, Dr. Luthi couldn't find anything wrong with her brain function. Physically, Annalisa seemed completely healthy, a clean bill of health. It wasn't until sometime in February of 1970 that Annalisa experienced a third event. After catching tuberculosis and spending months in a hospital, Annalisa had her third blackout. When the other patients in the hospital found out she had wet her bed during her blackout,
my
they
God.
openly mocked her and excluded her from any group activity. This third
Really?
blackout was different, though. Annalisa said she saw colors, heard sounds,
How are you in the hospital for the other mental patients going to make fun of you for peeing yourself by the other by the other mental patients? That seems weird because I've seen some mental hospitals and some guys go to themselves all the time. So it's like I don't get how they made fun of her for that. Like that's super messed up. And just as far as what I'm listening to, this whole situation just itself is messed up from when we know what's happened to her. And like just as soon as he mentioned like just the whole her religious and her restrict religious upbringing, I knew that was going to play a factor because there are so many cases out there like that of a person losing their mind because of the way they were raised by their parents, especially in religious terms, to believe this certain thing. And it's one of the reasons, why people go out there when kids, there are a lot of times when kids are raised like that, they go up, they grow up, they go on for life, and they start to act like to the extremists because they finally feel like they start acting to the extreme because they finally feel free after so many years to be other strict. Oh, this is what you do. This is the religion that you follow. Another religion matters. That person's bad. That person's bad because they don't follow this. They don't follow this. Like, and when you find grow up and you get a chance to go out there and experience the world, experience other people, other people's cultures, religions, and some people with no culture, religions. It's like it's a sensation that I've asked somebody. It's like it's a sensation. It's like they just feel like so just free and just go over with it because they were so strict and so confined before by their parents and the religions that they were in.
and experienced feelings of euphoria while praying with her rosary beads. After more tests, a second neurologist, Dr. Von Haller, diagnosed her with epilepsy and prescribed her medication. That's when Annalisa's condition got worse.
Alrighty, guys, stupid ad, but get back to it. Oh, see, yep.
Annalisa eventually returned to
Well,
school
the way she
later in
was
1970,
believing
but
like
now she was
religion and
depressed and
stuff,
withdrawn around her
with demons,
friends,
I'm not
and a lot
surprised
of it
about
had
she
to do with
wasn't
the fact that
possessed.
the frequency of her seizures increased. Her doctor's visits offered no insight into where the root of her seizures were coming from, which only compounded her family's frustration with the situation. Annalisa pressed on, though. She threw herself into researching Catholicism while finishing up high school, and in 1973 she enrolled at the University of Würzburg to become a teacher. She continued to take medication during this time, but her condition was rapidly worsening. By mid-73, Annalisa experienced hallucinations while praying and believed she was damned. She was obsessed with the idea that the devil was inside her and began to see a priest along with her doctors.
Must want to stay.
By late 73, Annalisa's strange behavior and erratic symptoms kicked into overdrive. Her parents took her out of college and kept her confined, mostly to her bedroom. It was during this time when she started taking Tegretol, an anti-seizure drug and mood stabilizer. It should also be noted that at this time, Annalisa said she heard a knocking in her bedroom. Her sisters confirmed that they heard the knocking as well. She also said she heard a voice that would regularly damn her to hell. Despite taking her daily cocktail of neuroleptic medications, Annalisa's symptoms worsened. She started growling like an animal, she saw demons, and she exhibited Hulk-like strength to the point that she'd throw her sister around the house like a rag doll.
So she just got superhuman straight all of a sudden. Okay, I didn't hear about that part. That she all of a sudden just got superpowers. But there are cases like that I know of people who get like a sudden like strength gain during situations like that. When they really think they be seeing things, their minds are over the place. Like I've heard of stuff like that before happen, but it's weird. They said like the knocking. They said the sister, so the sisters heard it too. Was it her knocking maybe? And she just think and she didn't realize that she was one doing the knocking. I don't know, cause so far, like just the superpower thing was like, I was like, oh, maybe this was some type of supernatural or thing. I don't know, but I wasn't expecting that part. That's weird. You said
She'd
phone like
also lick
straight.
her urine off the floor, chew coal, rip her clothes off, and eat insects she found around the house. Religious
Oh,
items like crucifixes and holy water also drove her mad. Her mother said she once caught Annalisa staring at a framed portrait of the Virgin Mary. She said her daughter's eyeballs were 100% jet black.
oh my
This
God.
all sounds like the classic symptoms of what the church would consider demonic possession. Annalisa's family eventually asked several local priests for an exorcism, but the men declined and encouraged the Michaels to continue with the traditional medical treatment she was already receiving. Besides, it wasn't that easy. A Catholic exorcism required the bishop's permission.
So yeah, it was a secret exorcism. So they
Sometime in
didn't get the
September of
permission.
1973, the Michaels met Father Ernst Alt, a local priest who, upon meeting Annalisa, almost immediately said she didn't look like an epileptic and claimed she wasn't suffering from seizures. Father Alt was convinced she was possessed by demons and got the local bishop to give
Lucifer
permission for the
himself.
exorcism. Bishop Joseph Stangl eventually granted Father Arnold Renz permission to exorcise Annalisa in compliance with the Ritual Romanum of 1614, but ordered the exorcism to be done in complete secrecy. While Renz performed Annalisa's first exorcism on September 24, 1975, she began to talk about dying to atone for the wayward youth of the day and the apostate priests of the modern church. Eventually, she stopped eating because she said she was not permitted to anymore. By this point,
What?
Annalisa's parents gave up consulting doctors and cut her off
Yeah, because I heard that the way she spore she ended up dying was actually because of like malnutrition. Like she wasn't eating, she wasn't getting enough food. She looked very skinny. That's very weird. Like, why would they make her stop eating? Like, how is that supposed to help with the extra? Like, it's things like that that get me confused. It's like, how is her stop eating supposed to help with this extra? How is that supposed to make anything better? Like, she has to eat. She was deer. But man, like some of the stuff they were saying, her eating bugs off the floor or her seeing things and this and that. I mean, I can definitely see why, especially if you're raised in that religion, you believe so strong in that. Like it's word for word, book by book. Like I can understand why that would seem like her being possessed by her. And I remember saying she saw her eyes like all black, like some supernatural demon type thing, and that she was hawk like straight, that she was eating bugs and stuff. But to be fair, there are also severe cases of other sister people doing the exact same thing who aren't possessed, and and that's why I'm having the trouble here because just hearing about this, it sounds like you could like if you were a person who didn't really know about magic or anything like that, you could really believe like yo yeah this chick is possessed or she's just crazy, but she was like diagnosed with that and one of the I believe one of the signs of like epilepsy is you seeing things or think you're hearing stuff and like visual disorder and stuff. So maybe like yeah, like I think she was just really sick dead. If I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think she was like possessed by a demon or anything like that.
her medication. Instead, they relied solely on the exorcisms, 67 exorcisms in all,
Oh
over
my
an
god.
11-month span in 1975 and 1976, to be exact. It wasn't unusual for Annalisa to endure 2 sessions a week, some sessions lasting up to 4 hours. And in audio recordings from the sessions, you can clearly hear Annalisa's distorted guttural voice.
Alright guys, let's get back into it. But like you used to hear that screaming. Hold on, let's go back a little bit because of that.
Endure 2 sessions a week, some sessions lasting up to 4 hours. And in audio recordings from the sessions, you can clearly hear Annalisa's distorted guttural voice. She growls like a wild beast, and you can hear the utterances she made in response to the religious ritual. And these all sound super creepy.
That it does.
The gruesome audio recordings during her exorcisms also reveal that Fathers Renz and Alt talked to 6 spirits allegedly possessing Annalisa. These spirits, or personalities if that's what they were, made up a murderer's row of evil incarnate. Lucifer, Judas Iscariot, Nero, Cain, Hitler, and Valentin Fleischmann, a disgraced Frankish priest from the 16th century. Given Annaliese's history with religion and her obsession with Christian teachings, there were later theories that Annalisa chose these figures intentionally. It's almost impossible not to agree.
That could be true, if you're thinking rationally about it.
Despite being pretty much skin and bones at this point, Annalisa still had to be held down while her exorcisms took place. This abuse, along with a lack of medical treatment and food or water, took a toll on her body, and she died at home on July 1st, 1976. On her death certificate, it read that Annalisa ultimately died of malnutrition and dehydration, though her autopsy revealed she also had fractured teeth, 2 black eyes, and bruises on her hands, arms, and wrists. She also had broken knees and numerous wounds on her body.
Oh my God.
Fathers Alt and Renz, as well as Annalisa's parents, faced trial for a negligent homicide in 1978. The priest boldly maintained the exorcism was successful and liberated Annalisa from the demons possessing her. Alt even doubled down and insisted that some of Annalisa's wounds that were documented in her autopsy were the stigmata. The evidence didn't line up, though, and Annalisa's alleged demonic possession wasn't enough to sway the German court's 3-judge panel. All parties were found guilty, but their sentences varied. Alt and Renz were charged with manslaughter and given 6 months in prison with suspended sentences. Annalisa's parents received no punishment, as the German legal system deemed they had experienced enough suffering.
Are you serious? 6 months for manslaughter? Are you fucking joking? That's not even a punishment. That's a slap on the wrist. Like, are you serious, bro? Like, wow. Okay. So the parents were found not guilty because I guess they suffered enough, I guess, from watching their child be possessed. Whatever, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure Emily was the one who suffered the most. But sure, whatever. Like, okay. Like I said before, if you are really raised in that type of religion, I can definitely understand why you would believe this. It's so easy for you to believe this. It's so easy for you to believe this because you've been trained and you've been beaten into your brain that demons and the devil and this and this and that and that. But like my theory is like, what if she never was raised with any of that stuff, but still was like, instead of getting this and being diagnosed, what even that stuff may happen, like he said, because it was so strictly beaten into her, like it ended up kind of like coming out in a scary way with her disease and these different personas, or her grinding, or maybe like looking at the figures and stuff like that. Maybe that wasn't so much her being possessed. Maybe it was her she was just like, I just hate these people because like my parents just forced them into me growing up, and that's what I personally think. I don't know if I can say, she was possessed by 6 different spirits and Hitler was there with Lucifer and it was all having fun and everything. That I don't believe that. Some of you guys might feel different, but it's one of the problems I've always had with people who are over religious. Like if you're I don't care what religion you believe in, as long as you keep it to you, you don't try to force it on anybody else. But you have people who are just so religious, who just take everything so over the top, everything's by the book, everything's word for word. They're like some of the scariest people in the world to me because they take things just too far. And they take these words, these books, these Bibles so far. And again, like I was raised growing up a Christian. This is coming from somebody who was raised growing up a Christian. Like I said, this close friend of my family was heavily like involved heavily in Christianity, and growing up I was also involved in it as well, going to church every Sunday and reading the Bible and this and that, and I remember one time I was coming home. We went over their house and I was listening to a song, some rapper, I think I was listening to like some song, I think it was Lips Like Sugar by Flow Rider. And we were sitting there listening to the song. She heard the song. She's like, "Hey, what you listen to?" I was like, "Oh, I showed her," and like she was like, "Oh, well, do you know what type of sin they're doing by making this music?" And then she gave a whole big lecture. I had to watch this whole video about how dancing singing, going to clubs, drinking, doing drugs, having sex before marriage. Anything like that was just evil. Growing up watching, I could have watched Harry Potter. That was evil. I could have watched Pokemon. That was evil. Like it's those type of things. So I did grow up around that. It was like big to me like it wasn't to Emily, but like I did grow up around a lot of stuff and. There were certain things I could have watched, certain things I could do, but it's one of those things I've always had a problem with people who are religious because of that. Because like if you're not sitting down praying to the Bible 24/7, oh everything you're doing is bad. But it's like, what type of life is that? What type of life is me just to sit down and pray the Bible every 24 hours a day? I'm like, it's stuff like that that makes you. I just could never agree with the whole religious thing. It's like because if everybody really did that, would we be as advanced as we are now? Will we be anywhere near the level that we are now if we just sat down and did that? Like, come on. But let's fast it out.
So there's really only one main question to ask, and it's an important one. Was Anneliese Michael possessed by Satan or some other dark, sinister force? Or was she suffering from an undiagnosed mental illness? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos of our weird history.
If I get
All right, guys, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, shout out to our history. They'll be linked those Chris Original as well to the channel. Please go check them out. Please go like them. And just, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's up to you. What do you guys think? Personally, like, I could definitely see why they think she was possessed. But my own personal thoughts, I think she was just a person who was diagnosed. It was just handled wrongly, in my opinion. It was just handled wrongly. I mean, again, we weren't there. I weren't there, so maybe she did have black eyes or something. But like, while I am a person who does believe in the supernatural sort of things, like I don't like just the fact that she was mom. This fact she wasn't given food and water. It was pretty much treated like unhumanly. That's the one thing I don't agree. I don't agree just the inhumane way they treated her was just that's how stuff makes me mad. It's like, man, like you couldn't like. It's one of the reasons why I don't like possessors or I don't like executions like that because it's just so inhumane what they do. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. What did you guys grow up religious family? If you did, do you still believe in the Bible, execution stuff, or have you changed? Let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure to check out again the link notes, Chris Original as well as to the Rachel channel where history is all about social media downloads Chris Low. Make sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section what other videos you want to react to, but where history else. And make sure to give it a thumbs, subscribe, and share. Places I correct some out. Peace.